Hey everyone, welcome to BRAP. I think I might be having some sound issues. Let me do a quick sound check here in the live chat. Let everyone know if you could. Let everyone know. Please let me know if you can hear me. Because I think I was having some weird sounds great. Okay, thank you, Adakanasa. Yeah, I was having some weird sounds in my my headset. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everything was coming in okay. But welcome to BRAP. We're back this Saturday, July the 6th. I can't believe it's July already, 2024, and it is hot outside. At least we're in my my part of the country here on the East Coast of the United States of the Americas. I believe with the heat index, it feels like 105. So, yeah. But on that note, I have with me Game Logic. Logic, what's going on, man? I feel like I haven't talked to you forever, by the way, Logic. I know it was off this week, 4th of July week, but how are you doing, sir?
I think I'm okay. I think Sydney Sweeney just broke the internet, so I might be a little distracted.
What? How did Sydney Sweeney break the internet? I have to Google this.
Apparently posted some pictures.
Sydney. I'm looking this up, man. Here we go. All right. I'm not seeing any. Is this something that was shared on Twitter?
Yeah, if you see it if you check Twitter, it's she's trending right now. But so is Starfield. So maybe it's not that big a deal.
Okay. Now I'm curious, man. I need to look this up. Anyhow, all right. All right. Now I'm looking for. Anyhow, okay, I got distracted. No, Logic, great to have you back on the show. We didn't have our Wednesday show because of 4th of July and everything. Actually, the town that I live in had their 4th of July celebration on July 3rd. And so anyhow, but yeah, great to be back. I can't find these pictures, Logic. I'm still looking for this.
I'll DM you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. So hopefully everyone had a great 4th of July holiday here. If you live in the United States, hopefully it was safe, fun, enjoyable. But anyhow. All right. So I do want to discuss some gaming-related news. Before we get to that, I do want to discuss what we're currently playing here on the BRAP podcast. And I'll go to you first, Game Logic. What are you currently playing right now?
Sorry, I'm pulling up my my logbook here.
That's a sign of a true gamer, by the way. You got a logbook. That's how many games you're playing. You need a logbook.
Let's see. I've been playing World of Warships. So had a. I wish I had been recording because I had a PvP battle the other night with where I earned 4,000 XP in a single battle. I think that was my first time that happened. So I was pretty proud of it. I've been on a very long grind for the New Mexico battleship. So I've been playing my class Tier 5 New York battleship after a very, very long layoff. So been pretty happy. Been pretty happy with that. The other thing I've been playing is Megacopter. So this is a Brep, can you pull up? I know when we're on StreamYard you can, but can you pull up gameplay video? Or is that a pain?
I have to set it up. And,
okay, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So I've been playing Megacopter. This is a June 21, I think, release indie game on Steam. So if anybody remembers kind of the old Desert Strike games, which
yes,
which was about just it's kind of a 2D, 3D isometric view. Kind of if you remember the old what was that game, Zaxxon? It's kind of like that type of view, but with a lot more degrees of freedom in the movement model than that game had. It's not. So the first time I got exposed to the game was at the I think it was the Indie Game Fest, which was I think a March or April event that's put on by Keeley's group, but entirely focused on indies.
I'm sorry, Hamp. Did you? I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but did you say this is this isn't a sequel to Desert Strike? It's like Desert Strike, right?
It is. It's by an indie group of developers. Kind of. I wouldn't even say spiritual successor, but just kind of game that's kind of designed in that mold, right, to evoke that kind of nostalgia.
Gotcha. Desert Strike, by the way, came out in 1992. I remember playing it on the Sega Genesis. Electronic Arts was the publisher, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was an EA game, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it was it by Broaderbound? I thought no, it looks like it was by.
Did you just say Broaderbond?
Yes, yes.
Man,
it's a deep cut.
The nostalgia continues, Ham. we discussed cartoons earlier today.
Yeah, actually, amazingly enough, Amy Hennig was an artist on Desert Strike.
Really?
Yeah. So Foresight New Media, Ocean Software, designer Mike Posen, which is a name that's familiar. I don't know whether that's sticking out.
Yeah, Mike Posen does sound familiar, but I do see artist Amy Hennig there. That's funny.
Yeah. But it actually was on the Genesis, the Amiga, the Sega Master System, so it was a cross-generational title, Lynx, Game Gear, Game Boy, Super NES, and the PSP. I guess they ported it to that title. But at any rate, like I said, game caught my eye at Indie Game Fest back this April. Came out on June 21st. It wound up on my list of new releases that I wanted to check out. So I have been getting into it. This is a pretty short game. It's supposed to be 6 to 8 hours, but it is a bullet hell pain fest of just fighting bosses and not and failing and going back to play them again. It's a new team, so it's their first game. They made, I wouldn't necessarily say missteps or errors, but they've definitely needed to go in and put in a few tweaks. I also jumped into the game day one. So when I jumped into the game, there was no, I was encountering bosses and nobody had posted anything about there were no wikis up, there were no guides, there were no, I was just looking for people who I just wanted to see if they were encountering the same difficulty I had, or were kind of interpreting the game's controls and the feedback and stuff like that the same as I was. There's very sparse literature out there about the game, so I've just continued to kind of work through it. Again, I am playing it on PC, so I've been playing it on my box with. I think I started off on my Uber box with the RTX 4080 in it, but most recently I've been playing in the box with the 5950X and an RTX 3070 Ti in it. So been having a good time. You have to be kind of willing to deal with failure. It's kind of very interesting. It started off, with me just kind of flying around and learning the physics model, and kind of being overly proud of myself in handling the helicopter. But that kind of comes to an abrupt end pretty quickly, even just in the regular generic missions, which I think are the more enjoyable missions in the game, less so the boss battles. But I'm definitely reminded. I don't know if people are familiar with the old Jane's. Jane's Combat Simulations games, which were made by EA. So A864, D Apache, and Advanced or Joint Task Fighter or Advanced Task Fighter, and several other games that were in that series. But in A864 Apache particularly, sure, you had straight up combat missions, but a lot of missions were based on you kind of sticking close to the ground, flying in low and slow, trying to be unobserved and unnoticed. A lot of times you had to go in and scout things out first, and then and penetrate deep into enemy territory. Sometimes take out a very specific target, and then on your exfiltration, you could gotta go Buster and just blow things up. But but just based on the sheer number of enemies and how quickly you can be overwhelmed in this game, I've had to start taking more of a tactical approach and kind of going in and just, getting into an area and giving myself time to kind of observe how many enemies there are, where they are, and take things in a little slower fashion, cut up the large map into kind of small pieces of a pie and take the approach that way. So it's been enjoyable. Like I said, boss battles have been super frustrating, but I am on. It only has like 4 acts or 4 stages. I'm in the 4th act or stage now. I think I'm pretty close. I think I've cleared all the bosses except for the final boss. So I'm probably going to go back and put another hour or so into it this weekend, and hopefully roll credits on it.
So what are the bosses like? Are they like other helicopters or?
So I'm just gonna say I think my key problem with the bosses is some of the bosses I just feel like some of the bosses are just on some bullshit. Right? Like they just have like some attacks that are just like, I'm just like, come on, man.
What do they like? They have like stages like Souls games?
They're not sort of kinda. What they have is, I would call it more like progressive attacks. So meaning they will, when you initially hit them, right, they're going to show up some like very generic attacks. But then like as they get less and less in life, then they'll shift tactics. And so they will present more complex attacks, or just things will happen like on the level of the board, like additional enemies will show up like to help them. You will get I think the thing that I hate the most is the environmental attacks that show up. So like the second boss, I think the second boss is called Oil Dusa. So you're on this tactical objective in like this oil field, and then this boss shows up, and so as she gets lesser in life, I think down at about 50% life, either she or just happens in the environment. I'm gonna imagine that it's she. I haven't gone back and watched my gameplay footage of this, but I think it's her. But she will set there are cacti around the oil field, and at a certain point, she starts setting the cacti on fire. So, in addition to her throwing bullet hell attacks, right, and then aerial support enemies coming in, she also has lit these cacti on fire around her, which what that causes is that causes you, as you're kind of pinwheeling around her, that causes you to have to extend your range of that combat circle, which just at a certain point, as the cacti like flame plumes are shooting up into the air, at a certain point you can kind of get pushed off the map, so you can't even tell if your bullets are landing on her. It just increases the complexity of that particular combat problem. Sometimes the flames, based on where she has them, because they kind of go up into the air, making a kind of a vertical stovepipes around her. You, depending on what their range is from her, you may have to fly in between her and that fire plume to land shots on her. And then now you're in close proximity to her, so her throwing bullet hell up in the air just make like it's just so when it gets to that point, I'm just like, this is some mess, because it just creates I mean, at some point the volume of stuff in the air just creates an environment where you're going to take hits, right? So then it just becomes a matter of, can you get her life down fast enough so that you can kind of weather the storm, right? Because at a 10 bullets in the air, you just get to a point where there's less and less out of those 10 that you can avoid, and you start taking 20% of the bullets in the air, 30% of the bullets in the air, and that just increases and gets worse, in terms of the number of and types of attacks that are being thrown around, until you just don't have enough life to weather through finally taking her down. So there's stuff like that. The boss after that, I can't remember, but it's like an alien in a submarine, and so when it starts, there's just the submarine, but then shortly after, there's the submarine and these like stovepipes that pop up out of the water. And so when these stovepipes are coming out, you don't know if it's him or the stovepipe, but these stovepipes pop out of the water and they fire heat-seeking missiles at you. So you're trying to attack the sub, but then you have this salvo of 5 or 6 heat-seeking missiles that's now tracking you that you're trying to avoid. He's also throwing up bullet hell, right, in a pattern, and so you're trying to avoid that. Okay. Then a big aerial enemy comes on. It's sort of like an OV-22, aircraft comes on, that's able to hover. So he's holding position in the vicinity of the sub, firing at you. You're trying to avoid him, pinwheel around him, get hits on the sub, avoid the bullet hell, avoid the heat-seeking missiles. So like all this stuff, like you have to decide, am I going to take down, the OV-22, right? It's not an OV-22. I'm just calling that. Am I going to take down the OV, or am I going to try and score hits on the submarine? So it's just that type of progressive kind of attacks as you lessen the boss in health.
Wow. That sounds intense, man. That sounds intense. Yeah.
And it does have a progression path, so you can upgrade your helicopter in between missions. So that I don't necessarily feel like all of the upgrades are impactful. In fact, because it's a junior dev team, you get some unlocks that I'm like, this unlock like does absolutely nothing. Like, or what they say it does is not like presented, like it's not impactful, and I don't think it's working the way they advertise. But there are some unlocks you get, like there's a point, I think one of the key points for me that I just recently hit is you get to a point where but I think a key thing is you get to a point, you have secondary weapons, and you get to a point where you can where you can mount 2 types of secondary weapons on the helicopter. So you have your secondary weapons are energy beam, plasma beam, rockets, and then eventually you get a plasma cannon, like burst cannon. So you get to a point where instead of just going into a mission with a plasma beam, you can go in with the plasma beam and rockets, and that's definitely kind of an equalizer and helps out.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So that's good then. There's ways to upgrade to make the fights maybe more balanced or maybe a bit easier.
I wouldn't say that. It gives you additional tactical options. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I feel like usually when you get upgrades like that, it does. I don't want to say it gives you an advantage, but I feel like it at times will balance. I'm drawing kind of a Souls comparison here. Not that like upgrades in Souls will balance things out. I think it helps, right? So I guess the question is, do you think these things help then somewhat, like during these boss battles?
Yes, I think some unlocks are definitely more impactful than others. I think that's my major takeaway. Okay. There are some that feel like they're kind of useless. There are definitely some that more than just this is supposed to increase your damage by 10%. And I'm like, okay, is that really doing what you say it's doing? Like, is that really impactful? Is that really helping? But there are definitely some like I won't get too far. There's some mystical abilities, right? Some kind of powers that you can unlock. And like one of those is like a blade damage. So you can turn this thing on that actually makes your blades puts an energy field around your blades and causes area of effect damage to anything around you.
Really?
Yeah, and that's impactful.
So some AoE then, okay.
Yeah, so like if I go into a thing where I'm supposed to take down like an oil rig, right, or a data center, I could turn that on, and that will cause damage to the structure. It also lets me fly around and cause damage to any turrets that are in the area and things like that. So that's definitely helpful. I think one of the big, huge ones is there's a countermeasure system that you can unlock, and that puts, they call them flares. It's you could pop flares, and that attracts the heat-seeking missiles and actually causes them to detonate. So that is huge, because part of the cognitive load in the OODA loop while you're flying the helo is that when these birds go in the air, now you have to consciously kind of track them in your peripheral vision as you're trying to land shots on a target or do anything else that you're trying to do on the map, and be consciously aware of where they are. Like those missiles can't turn as quickly as you can, so they're trying to track you, but you have to kind of keep a little bit, right, of your mental capacity fixed on like keeping track of the missiles that are in the air. popping those flares, right, removes you from having to occupy your mind with that. And then allows you to focus on other things that are going on the map. So there are some, there are some unlocks that, like I said, are definitely more impactful than others.
Gotcha. Okay. So what else are you playing right now? I know you mentioned you have a list of games.
Yeah, so World of Warships Megacopter. I played some War Thunder before I went on break. Finally, I've been like locked out of my account for years. So finally got that unfutzed and actually went in. I originally signed on to War Thunder planning to play the planes, the air battles. It was supposed to be because I had tried I tried World of Warplanes, which is another wargaming.net game before, and I was not happy with it. And I had said I was going to try War Thunder. I like briefly got into it, and then my account got dorked up. But I finally got it, fixed. So I actually went into naval battles this time, and so I've been going through that progression path. It's a little more complex than World of Warships, and so it's been nice going back and forth between the two. There are some pros and cons to each game, but it's been fun playing War Thunder. Probably the more interesting, newer one that I've been playing is Dark Star 1. So this was an old PC game that released in I think it's a 2005, 2007 game. Eventually came to Xbox and PlayStation, but it got ported to the Nintendo Switch last week, or maybe last week of June, so shortly after Megacopter came out. And so it was a game that I've had and that I've gone back and played a couple times over the years, but I was definitely interested in kind of having it in the portable format on the Nintendo Switch. I was telling the DPS guys last night, yes, I love my Steam Deck, but at the end of the day, right, the Nintendo Switch is still more portable. I kind of prefer the ergonomics of the controller setup in there. It hurts my hands a little less after, an hour of playing or so. So it had been in my list, but I hadn't had a chance to pick it up and get into it before I went on vacation. So the night before, as I was packing, I went ahead and bought the game, downloaded it. I think it's like $30 on the Nintendo Switch. And with like my gold coin points or whatever, that knocked another like $5 off of it. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's an old style kind of space simulation shooter. So if you're into those types of games, so like Descent 3, Free Space, Freelancer, games like that. It has the cockpit view in it. You've got multiple systems that you're balancing. You're balancing energy. You're balancing shields. There are upgrades that you can get into the fighter. You've got to figure out and understand like multiple systems in the cockpit. You got to figure out how you get into hyperspace, how you do targeting, how you navigate on the star map, how you set course for different star systems and things like that. So all those things that kind of really jazz me up, in why I play flight sims and space sims. It has that stuff in it. It brought forward with it through time, 19 years into the future, some of the same bugs that it had on PC. And those are mainly manifested in terms of like missions that are bugged. Like I said, I mentioned to the DPS guys last night, I will claim my own hypocrisy for, the ration of crap that I often give CD Projekt Red for the fact that The Witcher 3 came out multiple years ago. And even though they've released that game like 59 times, it still has side missions that are bugged and that can break. And that will not allow you to complete the side mission because lots of their side missions have sequence-based triggers, and so if you do something out of sequence, then the side mission gets broken and you can't complete it. This has side missions that are broken. Mainly the ones that I've come across are things like you're supposed to pick up a container in one star system and then go back through the hyperspace gate to ferry the container to another star system. So you will encounter bugged missions where like you go, you pick up the container, you go to the hyperspace gate, but the hyperspace gate like won't trigger. It just won't even present like the hyperspace option in your UI. It'll just stay grayed out. So like I've had to learn like which ones of those are bugged and navigate around them and like just don't do those missions. But other than that, I've been having a great time with that game. That's kind of one of those game genres that are in my wheelhouse. So having it on Nintendo Switch has been pretty fun.
Nice. Okay. So are those the two games then that are like on like heavy rotation right now for you, or are there some other ones?
Yeah, those are the two newer games that I picked up. I also went back to Baldur's Gate 3 yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You mentioned that to me. So I,
Yeah.
I know where you are now. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm assuming you're past that. You saved Howson, but you're probably back at the I forget the place, the Grove. Is that what it's called?
I didn't go back to the Grove. I had to camp after that big battle there.
Okay.
So now the next quest that I've selected to go on is I'm going to stay in that area in the Goblin camp, and even though Howson has basically told me what I need to do, and I know that what I'm about to do is not a thing that I need to do. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go try and find the Goblin priestess and
Yeah.
ask for her help and just see how that goes. It'll be interesting because I didn't agree to help Howson out, but this objective that I'm about to go on, I know is one that does help him out. So I'm gonna see just if the branch winds up where he loops back to where like I may make a different decision and allow him to join the party, or if I've just like broken that branch and now can never get him in. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. But I'm gonna stick in the vicinity of the Goblin camp and pursue some additional objectives there.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I think I helped him both times. Actually, 3 times. I believe I helped him. If I remember correctly. But yeah, I mean, it's like what I did notice is like different choices definitely have, and one of the things I loved about Baldur's Gate 3 is that different choices actually do impact the story arc and will take you down different paths. And then eventually those paths will converge again to the main story, which is great. It's actually really well done. It's one of the things I love about Baldur's Gate 3. So, do you think you're going to spend more time playing Baldur's Gate 3? I know it's one of those games that if you get into it, you can really get kind of lost and immersed in the game.
Well, I'm not gonna stay on it for 100 hours like you did.
You're not. I put in more than 100 hours. I think I put in about 400 hours in 3 playthroughs. But go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, it's near the top of my backlog, so I'll probably revisit it and pick at it. Here. As we continue throughout the year, but it's me. I'm not gonna, unless it's a game as a service. I'm gonna tend not to sit on a game and dedicate myself solely to that. I've always got a few games that are kind of in rotation.
Yeah, no, I that game really, and not that I'm complaining. I love that game. It's it's my favorite game this generation. One of the best games I've ever played, and I spent a lot of time, as you know, playing Baldur's Gate, and did 2 playthroughs on PC. Started the 3rd playthrough on PlayStation, and it's just one of my favorite games. I mean, the storytelling, the characters, it's really good. It's well done. All right, so Baldur's Gate 3 is in rotation. Anything else?
That's pretty much it. That it's worth talking about. Of course, I'm continuing to play. A lot of Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3. Played some last night. I want to. It is double XP weekend, so unfortunately,
Nice.
I logged in last night and saw that, and so that'll once again put me in a bit of a chokehold. But I want to put some time in. Of course, I've prestiged over 8 times, so I'm at like level 425 or something, 426, 7. So I'll continue playing along at that. Have a lot of fun doing it, but I want to put some time in to make double XP weekend feel a little worth it, but I do, have some other things on my list that I want to make sure I spend some time with.
Yeah. No, I hear you. All right. So for me, Logic, there's really only one game I'm playing right now. That is Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree, the DLC for Elden Ring, which came out two years ago. It's crazy. It's been 2 years since Elden Ring, and Elden Ring was such a really, 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 really good game. It's another game I spent a lot of time in. I think I have over, I want to say, definitely well over 100 hours. I don't know how many hours I have in Shadows of the Erdtree. Probably pushing about 10, 15 hours, maybe more. I've definitely opened up a lot. I've definitely opened up different parts of the map and kind of just chugging along. But I got to say, Logic, this game is, I want to say that the DLC is a bit more challenging than the base game Elden Ring. There's some mini bosses in this game that are a bit more challenging. Actually, one of the I think one of the criticisms I have when you would go visit the catacombs was that the bosses were, I didn't think were overly challenging, and in the Erdtree DLC, they're not as challenging as the bosses, but they're, from what I recall from the base game, they're definitely a bit harder, and so that's a welcome upgrade. But yeah, the bosses are definitely a bit more challenging. I mean, I think the first boss I came across was Divine Beast, Dancing Lion, and this is like, and I gotta say, like this boss battle was interesting, Logic, because the boss here actually has the boss is actually like it's a pretty decent sized boss, and it's pretty fast and very agile. Like it's like when I walked into the room to fight him, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be easy. He's probably slow, and he's not. And the other thing that makes him a bit more challenging is that he has different elemental and range attacks that make that battle a bit challenging. And I don't remember if some of the I feel like early on with Elden Ring, I don't believe that the first couple bosses had different like elementals, or maybe they did after you would get them to like a certain phase. But this one does lightning, frost damage. There's some kind of wind attack that he does. And I want to say there might be blood damage that he does, if I remember correctly. But it's not, I mean, he's not totally difficult to telegraph like his attacks. But I tell you, and of course, the music's always fantastic in boss battles with the From games or the Souls games. But yeah, he was definitely one of the first boss battles. I mean, I remember the first boss battle in Elden Ring, and you would summon the dogs that would inflict rot, and you would just literally you would kind of cheese the boss that way. The first boss in Elden Ring, and you would just the dogs would inflict rot damage, and then the rot would just eat away at the boss, and he died pretty easily. I don't think there's at least I didn't find any. And I tried like fire damage. I tried my blood damage, which the sword that I use, which is the it's like a +10. It's the I forget the name of the sword now. I think it's the Bloodhound, I believe it's called. But even that sword, like I feel like I wasn't really doing a lot of blood damage on this particular boss. So definitely a bit more challenging. And there was another boss that I fought, Rolana Twin Moon Knight, which kind of reminds me of Pontiff Salva. I always butcher that name for Dark Souls 3. But this particular boss also had different elementals and also reminded me a bit of Melania and how this particular boss moved. And if you played Melania was an optional boss in Elden Ring, and Melania was definitely the hardest of all the Elden Ring bosses. And she had 2 phases. She had the first phase, which she would deal blood damage, and then she had the second phase, which was rot damage. And Brian says, Dancing Lion wasn't that bad in retrospect. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, in retrospect, no, especially when you get to Rolana Twin Moon Knight, which Rolana Twin Moon Knight is, that boss moves so fast. And so that was probably the hardest of the boss battles that I've come across. Again, Rolana has range attack, has like different combos. And it was like I was literally pulling out my hair. And so what I ended up doing, Logic, and I was having this conversation with T-Rock. I feel like, and with Rolana, I did summon someone to help me because it was like Rolana's like no joke. Especially when Rolana gets to her second phase. But I feel like with some of these bosses, that From Software and in many ways is encouraging co-op to play some of these bosses, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I know that for some Souls fans, it's kind of like, especially with Elden Ring, with this idea of summoning your mimic or summoning or I mean, there's always been you could always do co-op in other Souls games, but I feel like especially with Elden Ring. It was kind of like, I felt like it was a bit more frowned upon because maybe some of the bosses weren't as difficult as previous Souls games. But I do feel like in this instance they're encouraging co-op just on how difficult some of these bosses are, particularly like Rolana the Twin Moon Knight, which I was like, which really gave me a fit. I mean, that was a very hard boss. But those are the two. Those are probably the two bosses that gave me the biggest, that were the most challenging. But there's some other smaller mini bosses in the dungeons, the optional dungeons. I called them catacombs, but they're dungeons. There's one in particular, Death Knight, which was a bit difficult, more difficult than other bosses that I remember from the catacombs and the base game of Elden Ring. So, and again, if these games will test your patience, I said this to you earlier today, Logic, if you're going to play Souls games, just accept the fact that you're going to die a lot, that you're going to lose, that you're going to lose runes. I lost, actually just before we went live, I lost about 250,000 runes because I mistimed a jump and I fell to my death. I went to get the rune. I mistimed the jump again. And I lost 250,000 runes. And then the day before, I lost about 600,000 runes. So, just be prepared to die a lot and maybe to potentially lose a lot of runes. And that's the frustrating part. But one of the things Erica brought up, and Erica Cuts for the Wins, a big Souls fan. One of the things that she said that I thought made sense about Souls games, if you're playing the Souls games, is that not just the boss battles, but like even just clearing out an area can be rewarding, especially when you find, like materials, or you find new grace sites. Those things can be rewarding too, outside of just beating the bosses. Now, the one criticism I have about this particular DLC is that there's no, and I'm playing on a PlayStation 5. There's no trophies. There's no trophies. Logic, and this isn't a word we use on this podcast, but that's an L. That's a miss. Because one of the things that, and I'm not a trophy hunter by any stretch of the imagination, but one of the things that I enjoy with the Souls games is that when you beat a boss, you get that trophy achievement. And it's kind of like a badge of honor. So further adds that sense of accomplishment, especially considering the grind and the amount of time that you put into learning the way that the different boss movements and their attacks and their phases and getting the timing down right. Especially if you've been grinding and trying to beat a particular boss, you finally beat that boss. There's no trophy anymore for the DLC, and that's a bit disappointing for me. I really wish they would have incorporated trophies for this game. So, but outside of that, Logic, I'm thoroughly enjoying Shadow of the Erdtree. The leveling up system's a bit different. Actually, I know you mentioned it to me before I started playing it. You have to find the Shadow Tree fragments, but it's spelled differently. It's spelled Scadutree. And I was actually pronouncing it Scatto Tree instead of Shadow Tree. And then you also use Reverend Spirit Ashes as well. And these can all be used at the Sites of Grace to increase your player power level and the power of your summons. So you have to find those in order to, and those only work in the Shadow Realm, by the way. They don't work in the regular, I guess, the regular world, if you will, in Elden Ring. But the fragments can be found near Mikula's crosses and villages and churches. So you do have to look for those. And so that's been part of what I've been doing, and just trying to find the shadow tree fragments and the revered spirit ashes, so that I can level up my player and my player summon. So, but yeah, it's a great game. It's a great DLC, and Hamp, I know this isn't a popular opinion, but this could be Game of the Year contender for me. Or it could be best ongoing game at the Keeleys this year.
Yeah, I would capitulate to best ongoing, since that that category has been arm twisted into what it is now.
Well, I know we talked about this in the BRAP DM a bit, but I think that at least with the Keeleys, they've set that precedent now with Cyberpunk, the Cyberpunk DLC. Where it was nominated for best ongoing game, and so it wouldn't surprise me to see Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree in that category this year. So
yeah, I would expect it.
Yeah, but great game. I'm thoroughly enjoying it, having a blast. I may go back now at some point. I was thinking about this. I may go back and try to get the platinum for Elden Ring. So that's something I may do, but we'll see. There's other games I definitely want to get to that are my backlog, that I want to play. But this is just one of those games where, kind of like Baldur's Gate 3, I get lost into it and get lost in the exploration and trying to find new caves, new areas of discovery, and trying to max out my character. So, but we'll see. So that's it for me. Just one game right now. All right. By the way, I didn't do my typical thank you to everyone in the live chat, but thank you, everyone. And please do me a favor, retweet the link, let everyone know we're live. And I do want to move on to some news items here. All right. So Logic, did you get a chance? I didn't get a chance to watch Capcom Next, which took place July 1st. Did you get a chance to watch that stream?
No. I was I was at work trying to wrap things up before. You said it was July 1st?
I believe it was July 1st.
Oh yeah, no, I was actually already gone.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance. I was just busy. But they did announce some new titles. We are getting Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. And that is launching on September 19th of this year. And now this is something, I know we spoke about this game earlier. I believe this is a game you're interested in. I think we may have lost Logic. All right. So, so they announced Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. Again, that comes out September 19th of 2024. And the game features updated visuals and a bunch of quality of life improvements over the original 2006 release. Can't believe it's been that long. They also coming out July 19th is Kunitsu Gamai Path of the Goddess. Logic, are you back? Just do a quick check here with Logic.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, yep, go ahead. I was asking about the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. I know we talked about it a bit earlier today. It sounded like a game that you were interested in.
No, it is not.
No, okay. No, okay.
Yeah, I just it's kind of interesting, and actually my comment that I made to you earlier wasn't really necessarily about Dead Rising specifically, but it's just about kind of that it's a journalistic weirdism, I guess. Maybe applies to YouTube podcasters as well, but more specifically, this is one of the rare instances where I'm separating those two groups. Because I was listening to some podcasts and I realized that, as I don't know, consumer advocates or somebody who's speaking on, things that are significant in the industry, I I've realized that a lot of game journalists will say a thing and present an impression, and then like if you pull the thread or you let them go on, you find that there's something that is a reason for that perspective to kind of be skewed, like that has something to do with their career. Like for instance, I just heard, some people gushing about the Dead Rising remake, and then come to find out, well, it's not that they're conveying that like this is a significant remake on the landscape of the industry, right? But that it's it's because like it was their first review, right, at the outlet, or there's something associated, often it's something that's associated with like a fandom right behind it. And I'm just kind of like, well, I mean, that's a valid thing to convey, right, as far as like personal perspective, but if you're in the mode where you're discussing things that people take as your commentary on like significance of what's going on in the industry, then they're not really quite the same thing. So it's just kind of weird to me. I mean, it goes hand in hand with how some people kind of always gush about remakes and remasters for because it's their preferred platform, right? And it kind of gets conflated and convoluted along with well, okay, but is it significant? Like, what's been the time delay? What's the market? What's the uptake? That type of thing. And it's always just kind of interesting how people often muddle those two conversations.
Yeah. It's not a game that I mentioned this to you earlier. It's not a game that I'm interested in revisiting. I played the originals back in 2006. I played Dead Rising 3 at the launch of the Xbox One. Just not for me. But it's interesting. It's one of those things that they've kind of they've gone back to, and we've seen other publishers do this, kind of go back to the well and pull back, older IPs and giving them the kind of giving the remaster treatment, bringing some of those updated visuals and quality of life improvements. And when they announced this, I'm wondering if this is kind of maybe a test case for maybe a Dead Rising 4. Maybe they're looking at this and see what interest is out there for the franchise. So,
I mean, maybe I just don't like
asking for Dead Rising 4.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's a game that was of its time. Like and I was lightning in a bottle. Like the iron was hot. It was really kind of just as really the wave of it. I can't remember when The Walking Dead started, the TV show, but it was really kind of where maybe this wave of kind of like zombie, obsession in fiction was really kind of kicking into high gear. And it was kind of quirky, it was kind of comedic, and so it was a good play on the overall entertainment market at the time. But like for me personally as a gamer, I think I've just gone on to where that's just like that gameplay style just really isn't kind of where I am right now. So I mean, I'm always glad for these games to come along for people who love them and that want them. And that's great, right? But like this doesn't seem like a game that I'm going to loop back around to play at all. Yeah. Maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe I'll hear that like the remaking of it is such a huge uptick that it warrants going back and taking a look at it. But we'll see.
Yeah, like Otacon also says it was a good demo for Xbox. It was a great demo for the Xbox One. All the zombies on screen. And I remember it was one of those games again I picked up at launch the Xbox One, and again it was one of those games.
360, yeah. Right?
I thought it was the Xbox One. Dead Rising 3?
The first Dead Rising 3. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't catch if you said 3. Yeah, the first one was 360, and then both of the later ones were on Xbox One, right?
I think 2 was on 360. I think 3 was the one that was on Xbox One. I don't think 2 was on Xbox One. I think it was Dead Rising 3 that launched with the Xbox One.
Okay, gotcha. I never played anything beyond the first one. Again, I mean, you and I have talked. I was part of a very highly migratory group of Xbox gamers in my circle, and so I like played the first one and never got around to the second or third one. Quite honestly, what would be actually really neat in this remake is if it was a collection. That of course that would probably only be a remaster, but who knows? Maybe what you were saying about whether them testing the waters to see if there's any traction. I could see if they're testing the waters to see if it warrants going back and remaking the other two.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's interesting. You mentioned the zombie, like I call it the zombie craze, right? We saw it in video games. I mean, there was obviously, Dead Rising. What was the other? Dead Island, Dying Light. I'm missing another one. Days Gone. I mean, there's that genre, that type of game still out there right now. I think Dying Light did pretty well, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back and look at the numbers. So, and that's also why I was thinking, like, is this kind of a test for them to see if they're still interested in this particular franchise? So, be interesting to see how well it does, what the uptake is for the deluxe remaster that's coming out September 19th this year. So, the other game they showed was Kurutsugami, Path of the Goddess. Have you seen this game, Logic?
Did this thing show up at like an Xbox or a PlayStation showcase before?
Yeah,
it's just like a no explanation of what the hell it was.
Yeah, it was either the Xbox or a PlayStation showcase, like a smaller event. I want to say Xbox. I could be wrong though. But it's definitely it's an action strategy game. When I saw the game showed off for the first time, I thought it looked pretty cool. But there's a free demo right now. I'm looking actually on the Steam store right now. So you can download it. So I'm going to download the demo and try it out. Because I thought the combat looked pretty unique. Visually it looks, I don't know how to describe it. Like it's kind of like that 2D, 3D type of JRPG format, you know? It looks interesting, so I'm going to give it a shot. But they did show that game off, and that's actually coming out pretty soon. It's coming out in 2 weeks. It's coming out July the 18th. So, so free demo out now. I'm definitely going to give it a shot and see what it's like. But I'll report back, let everyone know. I hope it's good, but we'll see.
I may not be thinking about that right. What I distinctly remember is at one of the console showcases there was a Capcom game that was visually striking. But also they said like absolutely nothing about it at all.
They didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they did. I think they did I think Capcom, or maybe they didn't say anything about it, but they did like a they did. I think the media was covering it. There were some articles out there about it, but yeah, I think you're right. There wasn't a lot of details about what it was. So, but anyhow, they did show more of a deep dive of the gameplay, and you can actually see that trailer on YouTube. So, the other thing that they, I'm sorry, go ahead. You were saying something, Logic?
No, that was it.
Okay. They actually they Dragon's Dogma 2 announcement. Speaking of backlogs, another game I haven't got to. Did you pick up Dragon's Dogma 2?
No. Nope.
No. Okay. So they're actually Dragon's Dogma 2 is actually currently hosting a limited time free trial across all platforms. So the trials gives you up to 2 hours of game time with this action RPG adventure game. And your save data will transfer to the full game when you purchase it. But again, I mean, it's it's just one of those games that's in my backlog. So we'll see. We'll see if I get to it. And I don't think. Let me sec here.
So one thing to loop back on, but Kurutsugami, Path of the Goddess is coming to Game Pass at launch.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I like the demo, then I'll play it on Game Pass. So maybe it was shown at the Xbox event then.
Maybe I'm trying to. They said it was announced by Capcom last year, and then shown. And so I don't know if that was at Capcom Next from last year. But yeah, I'll keep trying to hunt it down.
Yeah. They also mentioned that Resident Evil franchise, a new entry, the Resident Evil franchise, is in development. That's not really a surprise, I think, given how well that franchise is doing. I think Capcom's done a great job with Resident Evil. What was the last Resident Evil that came out, the remake? Was it 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 was really good.
That was last year, right?
That was last year, yeah. That was really good. And then, what was the last? Was it 8? Was the newer one, right?
Right.
Yeah. Did you play 8? 8? I thought 8 was really good.
I did not play 8, no.
Oh, any interest, Amp?
I might loop back, maybe. I'm not sure.
Oh, it's good. It's good, man. It's good. I really liked it. Really liked it a lot. So, all right. So yeah, that was that was the Capcom Next event.
Yeah, sorry to keep looping back, but
go ahead.
Yeah, Kunitsugami was first shown at the Xbox Partner Direct back in March.
Okay, that's what it was. Yeah, it's a visually stunning game. I think it looks great. I'm looking at the trailer right now.
Yeah, and I just remember that, and it was like sandwiched in between. Like it popped up like in the middle of like a trailer palooza kind of sequence. I forget what it was sandwiched in between, but yeah, I do remember this now.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a demo out on Steam right now?
I want to say there's a free demo on all platforms, or no, maybe not. There's a demo on Steam right now, a free demo on Steam.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's if that demo is available on PlayStation or Xbox. But I'm definitely going to download it today. Whether or not I get to it today, that's a different story. I'm sure I'll be back on Shadow of the Erdtree. Yeah, are you gonna download and check it out?
Probably not. It's
Double XP weekend. I get it, man. Double XP weekend.
Yeah, it's got to be something to. Yeah, way out of the way to make me. Yeah. But you know,
I'm going to download it. I'll report back.
Okay, I am doing more early access now. I am. I used to.
I thought you were like against early access, like you weren't.
Really, I in general was, but I have a few things wishlisted on Steam now that I'm planning on getting into.
Okay. All right. So, I do want to move on to Epic Games and Apple. This is like a corporate soap opera playing out in social media, Hamp. And this is according to George Yang, an article from GameSpot. Epic Games has taken to Twitter to call out Apple for rejecting the company's app submission, claiming that it's arbitrary and obstructive. Apple has rejected, according to this is the quote from Epic Games. Apple has rejected our Epic Game Store notarization submission twice now, claiming the design and position of Epic's install button is too similar to Apple's get button, and that our in-app purchases labeled is too similar to the App Store's in-app purchases label. This is again according to Epic Games. Now, Logic, I know we've talked about the Epic Apple thing in the past, but it's been a couple months. What do you think about this back and forth between Epic and Epic Games and Apple? I think we lost Logic again.
No, I'm here.
There you are.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
I haven't eaten since breakfast, so I was
okay.
a piece of beef jerky. Yeah, and by the way, I'm totally wrong. I'm totally wrong about Kunitsugami. Just in terms of timing, it was not sandwiched in between. It was actually at the end of the Xbox Partner preview back in back in March, shown after Frostpunk too. Yeah, I mean I mean these court cases are always super interesting. Again, I track a lot of the tech space, right? Not just gaming. So, I've paid close attention to Apple versus Samsung, and then Oracle versus Google. And what's always super interesting is just all the details that drop out of court. And often, for companies that have nothing to do with the actual court case, like directly, as far as they're not a plaintiff or or the other party. Like today, I did a lengthy write up on Stalker 2, and like there were details about Stalker 2 and its exclusivity agreement with Xbox that came out of the Epic Apple trials from 2021. Right? Like Xbox has very little to do with Epic versus Apple, so it's always interesting when these things come out. Tim Sweeney's going to do what Tim Sweeney's going to do. I appreciate. I appreciate that he's being disruptive. Like, and I know that there's lots of opinions about,
he's very disruptive. He's always courting the what I said this earlier. He's always trying to appeal to the to the public with his tweets on social media. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, and I know there's lots of controversy about is what he is doing really altruistic? Does he really have the thoughts of consumers and what's best for them, or is this all about what's best for Epic and them earning money? And there's definitely some certain thumb rules that I think people reading these tea leaves should definitely take away. Like people should just definitely understand Epic is not interested in lining anyone else's pockets with their property. Like Epic is not interested in putting Fortnite on somebody else's platform, in a way that makes that other platform money. And there's thresholds for that. Like obviously Fortnite is on Xbox and it's on PlayStation, and they give up, a percentage of the revenue for the microtransactions that go through there. But it's also clear like on certain other platforms, Epic is not really interested in playing ball until they can do it their way and they can capture all that revenue from it. So, it's going to be interesting. It's interesting looking at them as a business, as, Unreal Engine is now at the forefront of not just being used for games, but actually being used for things like movie production. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be interesting to see how the technology moves in that direction. Cause we may all just be watching movies that are all built on Unreal Engine. Or that may spark a new competitive landscape where, PlayStation has talked about, building tools for creatives and for movie making and things like that. So, we may soon see a competitive market that, is Epic versus Sony versus Adobe, right? In terms of making tools for automation of workflows for movies and things like that. That may be a whole new landscape. So it's interesting to see it go on and hear what's falling out of it. You go back a few years ago, I was probably a staunch Epic Tim Sweeney cheerleader, and was a proponent of them trying to break these walls down. Now I'm just kind of like, at most I'm glad that we have the Epic Game Store, as it just provides an alternative means of consumption on the PC landscape. I've had my problems with Steam in the past, particularly with their refund policy. So I'm glad that somebody made an alternative to that. I think that's needed. The rest of the stuff, I'm just kind of like, we'll kind of see how it goes. I see Apple's point, and I see the curated experience Apple is trying to provide, and how these things will make it less than that. Not saying that it won't be viable, but I'm not necessarily a proponent for either side right now, and it's just kind of a curiosity to see going on in the background.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting back and forth. I mean, by the way, Tim Sweeney's actually from Potomac, Maryland. But yeah, the back and forth with him is interesting. And Tim Sweeney did actually. He also said that he's saying that now it's disheartening to see Apple twist its one honest notarization process into another vector to manipulate and thwart competition. And all this is a result, if I remember correctly, the European Union passing the Digital Markets Act. And that basically is allowing Epic to sidestep Apple's 30% in platform fees by having their own what's it called, Epic app, so that you go to the Epic app to get Fortnite. So,
well, if the EU lands on Epic's side for every, like, so that's the umbrella policy, right?
Yes.
But out of that, Apple has now come up with this entirely draconian regime that basically makes it make no sense for anyone to open their own app store. Like, if you are a successful company and you're going to have in excess of 1 million downloads of your app, you start getting into territory where you need to get yourself some actuaries to figure out if it makes sense for you to go down that path, because you're going to get charged for every app download above that, and that by Apple, and that includes updates. So you've got 1 million instances of your app deployed, 1,000,001. Now, each additional one beyond that, you're going to have to pay Apple some number of euros. But on top of that, anytime you update the app and everyone goes to update the app, that's another. So that's let's just say, for instance, like that's going to double it right there, right? So, it's funny and interesting the way, Apple is sidestepping this. And then in the US, I think that's one key thing for people to understand. Where a court has taken a side with, for instance, what Epic has been saber rattling for, and what Microsoft hopes to be able to leverage in order to prop up their own app store, has only taken place in Europe. That is not the state of affairs in the U.S.
No, not at all. Yeah.
And so the court in the U.S. has actually found with a has arrived at a finding that just has no teeth. Right, where it has kind of said, yeah, Epic, you're right, but Apple doesn't have to necessarily change anything, and they're just at a stalemate. And so a lot of this is Epic trying to get that thing restarted too, and they've had fits and starts and lurches along with it. But right now, like, the finding in America is nothing as conciliatory towards the effort of Epic, or what Epic wants accomplished, in any way, in the way that it is in the EU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought with the passing of the DMA in Europe that Epic could still open up their own Epic app on iOS. No, they can't do that still, or
so they can from a legal perspective.
Yes,
but each time Epic has filed in an effort to do so, Apple initially approved it and then kicked it back, and they've kicked it back a second time.
Okay,
because
gotcha. Okay, yeah, because
even
in this case,
even though you can open up your own app store, you still have things that you have to comply with in your terms of your arrangement with Apple. So what Epic has been arguing since this whole thing went down is that, yay, great, the DMA is passed, but look at this ridiculous regime that Apple has set up. Like, that's and what they have asserted is that, and what Tim Sweeney has done a lot is, he has weaponized Twitter to basically say, hey, the DMA is passed, but hey, EU, look over here at what Apple's doing, right? And he's gotten traction for that. And he's gotten the EU to pick up the baton and, look to fine Apple or call them into court for not being in compliance. So the rules are there, but as we always say, right, around laws, making up the law and getting the law to pass is just step one. Making the law enforceable and actually then executing that in the courts is where, right, is really the tough road to hoe. So that's what a lot of the gyrations are about now.
Yeah. And Tim's saying Apple's rejection is arbitrary, obstructive, in violation of the DMA, and we've shared our concerns with the EU. Actually, that was Epic Games, not particular Tim Sweeney. He says, barring further roadblocks from Apple, we remain ready to launch the Epic Game Store and Fortnite on iOS in the EU in the next couple months. So, interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out. So, all right. Let's see here. All right, Hamp. PlayStation to attend Tokyo Game Show 2024. PlayStation has been absent from They do their they always do their like state of play, whatever it is, before the summer showcase, and they do have some presence at the summer showcase. We know they left E3 years ago. They don't go to Gamescom anymore, but they are back at the Tokyo Game Show, and now this is gonna be the first time they really haven't been at the event since 2019. I mean, they were there last year, but they only showcased like smaller titles, if I remember correctly. But yeah, Sony's going to be there, and they are going to. Actually, I should mention Tokyo Game Show is scheduled for September 26th through the 29th of this year. But yeah, so PlayStation's going to be back there. Yeah, I'm kind of interested. I'm a bit surprised by this, Logic, because we always thought that we always thought, but I know there was some speculation there may be some kind of state of play in September, and maybe there still is. But I wonder if we're going to see some, some new announcements as relate to maybe PC ports. Maybe they show some more Astrobot 2. I don't know if they would show Concord at the Tokyo Game Show. I'm not sure if that's a market or audience you would show that game. Maybe they will, but they're back. They're back at the Tokyo Game Show. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what they're going to show. What do you think, Logic?
Yeah, who knows? Again, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm in a weird place with showcases and stuff now. Like, I think often they are overemphasized by social media.
I feel
their
like
importance.
I feel like you're judging me right now because I love my showcases.
well, we had a good discussion about it on DPS last night, right? And I've been trying to chew my teeth about this and figure out like how I really feel about these things. I definitely stand on I don't. There's no relevance in me for grading them. It's a matter of, like I said, I have a Notion notebook. I have, games that show up at showcases that are on my watch list. Like I said, I periodically go through those, and what I do differently now than I used to do before is I used to just, okay, there's a game that I'm interested in. If I see a news article that passes my windshield, then I'll get concerned about it. But now I keep the watch list, and I actually make an effort. Right, it's in my rotation, right, to go periodically pull the thread and see what news there has been out about it. Like I said, I did that with Stalker 2 today. So, I don't necessarily feel like they're completely irrelevant. But I think the importance that they're ascribed is less than Twitter would make you believe. Like I said, the conversation last night, what I came around to was, well, they're only significant in as much as they have an impact on the market. And if they don't, then that's kind of your answer. And I think where the tip of the spear is on the impact to the market is, do they impact the guy or the girl walking into GameStop or Best Buy and either, deciding what console they want, or they already knew when they came in, and when they came in knowing that it's been because of their friends that they've talked to, and where their friends are gaming. And I get that cross-platform is a thing now, but a nascent gamer who doesn't know about gaming, who polls their friends and asks what platform they should get and what platform they're on, their friends aren't going to say, "Hey, I'm on PlayStation," but it doesn't really matter if you get an Xbox or a PlayStation because there's crossplay, right? Their friends are still going to tell them to get the platform that they're on, and then the secondary impact is what does that salesperson in Best Buy or GameStop tell them? And where I landed on is what the person in Best Buy or GameStop is going to tell them. Is it going to be what they saw at the showcase and what the potential for the platform is, or is it going to be based on what their deliveries have been over like this generation or the last 4 or 5 years? I tend to think it's going to be based on the deliveries more so than what's shown at the showcase. I think they may be conveyed what was shown at the showcase, but then they're going to say, that's but with Showcase, you never know if those games are going to show up. You never know they're going to be late. What I can tell you is I can tell you what's in the library for that platform now.
Yeah.
And I think that holds more weight. And so that changes as the timeline plows forward, right? And those games get delivered. But today, I just don't know. I think what's going to be said to a person walking into those stores is they're going to be told about the strength of the PlayStation library to date. So my other point being, I don't think so far that the fact that PlayStation hasn't spoken a lot about first party, or that there's a feeling that there's not clarity on what the portfolio has in store from a first party perspective. I don't think that that's market impactful yet.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that it's not market impactful. But I think for me, as from just somebody who appreciates the quality of the type of games that their first party studios put out, I'm at a point where like Sony, I would like to hear some kind of roadmap, something.
Yeah, I get it, man. You look, if you bought the fight on pay-per-view, you want to see the promos, right? You want to see the boxers at the press conference. You want to see them talking trash at each other.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah, I want to see. It's like Hunter, Triple H, and in between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Like before WrestleMania. That's what I want to see. Because they have been kind of quiet. I mean, and I don't disagree with your point. There hasn't been any impact to the market just yet, to the PlayStation business. But as a fan, I do want to see them. And this is why when I saw this article, this news story about them returning to the Tokyo Game Show, and I said, by the way, they were at the Tokyo Game Show in 2019. They were actually they were at Gamescom in 2019. And I think that was their last. That actually was their last in-person show before COVID-19. They haven't done anything since. So the return of the Tokyo Game Show is kind of interesting because, I'm wondering if they're going to show are they going to show more independent games? They're going to show different partnerships with different Japanese developers. I was assuming they probably will. But it's just interesting to see them come back to the Tokyo Game Show, and I'm just curious. And I don't know if we'll ever know this. I'm just, one of the things I'm wondering is what's the motivation for them to get back to, or to return to the Tokyo Game Show. But I also mentioned and I mentioned some games like, they show Concord. Concord's coming out August 23rd. So I don't know if that would be there at the Tokyo Game Show. Astrobot September 6th. I don't know if that will be there, but maybe they show it anyway, or they at least market it at the show and have playable versions of it. On floor? Yeah, go ahead.
We're talking about software. What if it's PlayStation 5 Pro?
I didn't even think about that.
I mean, you gotta sell some in Japan, right? And if the thing's coming out this year, that is their last stop to put word out about it. And I don't really know that you have to put word out about it at Gamescom. And I don't know that you had to do this summer.
That Windows September's been rumored for the PlayStation 5 Pro as some kind of announcement. And by the way, real quick, Logic, I got 29. I got the dates wrong. They were actually at the Tokyo Game Show last year, but they only presented independent titles. But they're fully back this time. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just in my memory, and again, this is definitely biased just based on my own experience. To me, PlayStation 4 Pro didn't catch fire until the second year it was out. That first year it was out, to me, in my head, it was very lukewarm. It was very much, why do I need it? And again, that's for somebody who has a PlayStation now, right? For the people who are, again, I definitely still think it's valid that new customers entering the market, people who haven't upgraded yet, new gamers coming in, just like we get every time there's a TLU or TLU 2 remaster. People are like, well, who needs that? Who wants it? And I'm like, well, let's not act like there's not some new gamer coming into the market today, right? Who's going to be told, hey, one of the best games ever has been TLU or TLU 2, and it just got remastered, so this is your best way to experience it, right? Those people are still viable, addressable market targets for the PlayStation 5 Pro. For for people who have a PlayStation 5, the need to upgrade or the consideration upgrade didn't really start hitting until the second year. So my point being is I don't know that there needs to be some super huge early reveal of PS5 Pro. And therefore, like September, if you're going to tell people, it's dropping, then or in October or November or that holiday, whatever, I think it's plenty of time. It makes sense. Samsung just did one of their unpackeds, I think last year in South Korea, because it was their stomping ground in their home territory that made a lot of people in the media upset. But I'm like, well, guys, it is a Korean company. We don't give Google flack for doing Google I/O in the U.S. So I
think would Google do that? Why would they announce something at CES? Yeah, good.
Yeah. So that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, that's a yeah. Go ahead.
Brian E says, they show a PS5 and Pro in September for a fall release, because if you reveal it earlier than that, then it puts a chilling effect on PS5 base sales. So that you're into holiday season at that point, and there's nothing to lose by going ahead and doing the reveal in September.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that. Like it makes up September. It is that is their home turf. There'll be eyes on the Tokyo Game Show. Obviously, I mean, I think there would be eyes anyway. Even if Sony was to announce this outside the Tokyo Game Show, it would still get a lot of press coverage because it's Sony, it's PlayStation. Yeah, I mean that's a great point, Logic. I was thinking about what games are they going to show there? What kind of partnerships are they going to announce at the Tokyo Game Show? But the PlayStation 5 Pro, I mean that would make sense. That timing, again, that has been the rumor. Again, I want to stress rumor. With PlayStation 5 that would be announced sometime in September. And, we're talking Tokyo Game Show end of September, the 26th to the 29th. You're right. Now we're cheating and we're getting close to holiday season with hardware and everything. So, I want to go back to my other point, Logic. Again, I'm not as vocal about it. I have seen other PlayStation-centric podcasters be a little bit more vocal about the lack of communication by PlayStation or not giving us a roadmap for quote unquote their first party. I've heard people say that they don't have any exclusives. And I'm like, well, no, I mean, they've even this year for not having any big tentpole AAA first party exclusives. I think the exclusives that they have released this year have been pretty good. But yeah, as a fan, like I would like to hear something from them, because we know that their first party studios are they're cooking, as people say. We know that the Insomniac leak. We know that there's a Wolverine game coming. I'd like to see something as a fan, Logic. I would like to see some kind of roadmap. That's kind of been my only criticism of PlayStation this year, outside of the games that they've released so far, is that I haven't seen that. I haven't got that communication from them, and maybe that's just maybe they're just not ready to announce those things, or it's maybe it's a situation where, like, when you're in first place, you don't really have to say much, especially if your platform's doing well, which we know the PlayStation 5 is doing pretty well. But I'd like to hear something. So.
Yeah, well, I'm first and foremost a fan of the PC, so I just don't worry really about what the consoles are doing. I mean, they'll when they tell me that they've got a game that it was worth me getting down out of my seat about, then I'll get down out of my seat and go play it. But other than that, I focus on PC. That's the bulk of what's in my rotation, like, all the time, and I never worry about games coming to PC.
PC doesn't have that problem.
Nope, not at all.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Excuse me, I want to grab the super chat by Gaming Forte. What is going on, Forte? $5 super chat. It says, unfortunately, this fight will be delayed until 2025. PlayStation will rely more on second and third party to push PS5 sales. First party will so in 2025. Thank you for that super chat, Forte. Yeah, there's something. What else is coming out? Something else is coming out in 2025. I think a big. I forget.
GTA 6.
Well, that too, but that's. I was just thinking Sony first party. I can't remember now. I didn't have my coffee this morning, Logic. God, what's the first part? Is Wolverine? Wolverine's not coming out in 2025, is it? I can't remember.
Not sure.
Yeah, I can't remember. So, but thank you for that super chat, Forte. Great to see you. Assuming you're at work, Forte. Usually he super chats when he's at work. He's probably listening to us. Death Stranding 2 comes out in 2025. That's what I was thinking about. I don't think you're playing that game either, right, Logic?
Oh no, yeah, I will be definitely
will?
playing that. Oh yeah, yeah. I
thought you didn't like the first one.
Oh no, no.
I got you confused with someone else. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that might be Slow-Mo, who never likes going full Kojima.
That is Slow-Mo. That you're 110% right.
Yeah, I think Death Stranding was poorly marketed at its initial launch, maybe even at its second launch. I still to this day think that there's not great ad copy on the street about like what that game is, and the do loops that are in it. Yeah, quite honestly, I don't think there's a great like marketing explanation like that describes like what that game is all about. Like it's all entirely by word of mouth. And I don't even think that the people who love it like do a great job of conveying to people. Like this is what I said about what was it? Was it either Unicorn Overlord? Maybe it was Unicorn Overlord or a Unicorn, one of the two. But I was like, I got the game. I love the game, but the game's an auto battler. And I'm like, you mean to tell me in all the journalists and people who reviewed this game, nobody thought it was important to like convey to people off the top of their head that it's an auto battler? Like that's important. Like it's so. I guess there are just these games like that come through and kind of do that. Like they just like people just like skate by or skip something that's really pertinent, and I'm like, I don't get it. But yeah, I was
same thing with Aegis 13 Sentinel. Very similar game to Unicorn, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but I think Death Stranding is a great game. I haven't done a complete playthrough, but I've played a chunk of it. I love the game. Just my slate is always full. It's definitely something I want to get back to. But yeah, I won't be sleeping on Death Stranding 2 just because the marketing around it isn't great and the messaging around it isn't great.
You know what? That's a great point. And the marketing was terrible for that game.
Yeah, it was just. I mean, this is if I have a problem with Kojima, I mean, this is my problem. Like it's. Yeah, and it was all the bullshit, right? It was all the mystifying and like making this thing like it was some great like intellectual philosophical.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm like, dude, it's a game. It has like 5 to 8 like mini games / do loops in it. Like, and that's the experience. Like, just tell people that.
Yeah, there's actually stealth elements in the game. It's not just a walking simulator. Yeah, I thought he was getting he was trying. I thought the marketing he was getting a bit too cute with it. It just
exactly
more bare bones, straight to the point. This is what it is. This is the world that you're in. People are living they're people are isolated from one another because of the BTs. And your job is trying to reconnect the world, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, and they are. I mean, some of the combat sequences in that game, there's some big set pieces there, some big boss battles.
Well, that's one of the key things like that's still like. I mean, I'm not gonna get like totally grimy and down in the mud with people who want to argue over like the percentage of combat content there is in the game. But what I will comment on is there are people to this day who will say and stand on the square and believe that there's 0 combat in the game. And I'm like, that's just not true.
Yeah.
Right. You can talk about whether you like it or not. You can talk about whether or not it's meaty enough for you or not. Right. But it is a thing you have to mantle over and get through, right? Mm-hmm. Like in the course of the game as part of one of the mini games / do loops. So it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with the marketing this time around. I mean, obviously we know what it is, but I'm just curious to see how Kojima markets this the sequel to this game.
Quite honestly, I don't think he should market any more than he's like. I think he should just show trailers, talk about how great it was to work with the actors who were in it, who are all like no names and faces, and like leave it at that. Just like we say about many other companies and many other platforms, just let the game speak for themselves.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Like
great product placement in that game too, by the way.
No one at this point needs to be told, conveyed, messaged, explained to them that a Kojima game will have some element of some existential type of experience in it if you choose to consume that, right, and absorb it and chew on it. Nobody needs to have that like explained to them. Like just let that piece of it just sit and let those people go get it if they want it for that. Other than that, just trailer the game, bring the actors out, say how much fun you guys had working together, and move on.
Yeah,
talk about fizz ops or whatever.
Yeah. Briney says, people really underestimate that game. It's probably one of the most zen-like experiences anyone has created gaming. I don't disagree with that. There's a level of... There is a zen-like experience in that game. I noticed that when I was traversing through the mountains and, getting to different, traversing the different parts of the map by myself. Yeah, it just... I thought it was very underrated.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that existential stuff is there, and particularly if there are elements in your life that speak to it. Like for anybody who's like I spent a lot of time in my life backpacking, and I was talking to my wife about it this weekend. Like just I would go park at a trailhead. I would do a ton of extensive planning, right, on distances and time and what my ground speed would be during the day. Packing my bag, planning meals. Getting my gear, all that type of stuff. I had lifelines, who I would say, hey, I'm going into the trailhead at this time. I'm parking my car. This is my intended route. This is when I expect to come out of the tree line. If you haven't heard from me by within 3 hours of when I'm supposed to come out, that's the point to start calling the rescue rangers or whatever. And I'm like, that was an entire period of my life and lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And formulated everything, like my diet, how I trained. And I'm like, so for me, playing Death Stranding and being and reflecting on that loneliness, that isolation, right? Because I was, and that was the other thing, I always backpacked by myself. And that was momentary isolation that I drove myself to right out of other things that were going on in my life. Like I just needed to get away from people. I just needed to get away from technology. I needed to isolate for a time period. But what was in my head was that, okay, this is temporary, right? When this is over, I have to come back out and deal with the real world. Thinking through that and what was going on in my identification with the isolation of hiking over the mountains and stuff in Death Stranding, and understanding that no, that's the world. There is no yes, there are people for you to, but this is the world now. You guys are disconnected. You just as a matter of doing your daily commute. Right, is a lonely, isolated backpacking trip, right? So, I mean, that stuff is there, and like I said, people can consume that if they want to. But again, this is a gaming landscape filled with people who say things like, "I don't want politics in games. I don't want to have to think about real life when I'm in a game. I just want to turn my brain off, right, and not have to think about reality." So, attempting to put a lot of marketing behind it, right, when that's a certain percentage of the market, obviously isn't going to go anywhere. So
yeah,
I don't know, but it was a great game.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. It's a great game. I mean, there's it's interesting you mentioned that people don't want politics, whatever, in video games to me, but I mean, video games are a form of art, right? So, I mean, and if you don't want those things, you don't have to play those games. That's the other thing that I think of when people say those kinds of things. So,
but BRAP, they have to. They have to. Somehow they're impacted or impugned by any game of any content that they don't like being placed in front of them. It's a problem if they put any microtransactions in a game because the person has to see them. The Assassin's Creed Valhalla map is a problem because there's icons on it, and even though you don't have to play it to mainline the campaign, it's offensive that they're in there. So, everything that is a game that's not for a person is a reason for the gaming market to be upset.
Yeah. All right. I didn't mean to go on this Death Stranding rant. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Mary Wilcox, by the way. I don't disagree with that. We've talked about that on the show.
Great. Sorry to diverge, but great LeVar Burton clip on Twitter, by the way, where he talks about the fact that he keeps his the chains that he wore in Roots on his mantle above his 12 Emmys. So if you haven't seen that, that's a worthwhile thing to go check out.
I need to see. I saw you tweeted that out. Yeah, I need to see that. Man, I cannot wait for Death Stranding 2 now. As we're talking about, I was looking up some of the some information that's out there on it. All right, I do want to move on to Tales of Tales of is it Kanzara? I was butcher the pronouncement of
Kanzara.
Kanzara, yeah, Zao. The Surgeon Studios, the developer, announces layoffs. So we have more layoffs from another studio. It's unfortunate. I'll read the studio statement here. They say, unfortunately, Surgent has joined the growing number of game studios impacted by layoffs this year, with just over a dozen people affected. It's a difficult time in the games industry, but we remain incredibly proud of our entire team's work on Zao and of the praise it has received from critics and players alike. Our focus now is on supporting those affected, continuing to work on Zao, and looking to the future with our next creative project. So, and the studio head founder, I can't pronounce it. How do you pronounce it? Is it Abu Bakar Salim? Is that? I'm terrible with
Abubakar, I think.
Abubakar, yeah, I think it's Abubakar. I'm terrible with names. Who also voiced the Zao in the team's first game, released his own statement addressing the layoffs. He said, "Thank you so much to those who have checked in. Searched deeply. This isn't the news I wanted to share today. I'm so proud of what that team have achieved over the course of these 4 years. When things got tough, every one of them stood so strong. It was inspiring. So to be delivering this news today really sucks. I know we're not alone here, but that does not make it easier. The focus now is to continue supporting those affected any way we can. I will be replying to this with links to posts from our affected team members. If you have any opportunities available or know of any going, please consider these incredible, talented people." So yeah, just another. It's unfortunate news. Just another studio that has gone through layoffs again. We've seen a lot of layoffs this year from many studios in 2024. So, now, Elijah, did you play Tales of Kanzara? I didn't play that.
I have not. No.
Yeah, I think it got some good reviews, if I'm not mistaken.
It did.
Yeah, and was that also a game that came on Game Pass? Is that available on Game Pass or?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember either. So just unfortunate news there. I just had something else that I want to discuss here that was, and I can't find it now. Oh, here we go. All right, we got some new information regarding Dragon Age, the Veilguard. Is that? I don't think we really talked about the new Dragon Age much on the show. But is that a game that you're interested in? I know Slomo is interested in it. Certainly piqued my interest.
No, that's a wait and see for me. It's BioWare. They have lost their mojo. When they prove to me that they've gotten it back, then I'll get interested.
Oh man, that hurts, Logic. But I don't disagree with you. They have lost their mojo, like Austin Powers. I mean, it's not the same BioWare of old. Not the same BioWare of old. But I mean, I like what they showed. Again, I mean, it's not okay. So it's not one of those games where it's a definitive day one purchase for me. But it's definitely on my radar. I don't disagree with you logically. I want to see. I just want to see what the reviews have to say about this latest iteration of a Dragon Age. But Game Informer has an article. They came out 4th of July by Wesley LeBlanc. Gives an update on some of the armor and upgrades that you have with your gear in Dragon Age of Velgard. One of the things that really stood out to me, Logic, and it made me think of Souls games. That basically you can take whatever armor set, like let's say you're wearing a particular armor set, right? You can actually take that armor set's stats and apply it to a different piece of armor. And that's a quality of life thing that, again, when I was thinking about Souls games and I was thinking about the armor set I'm rolling with right now in Elden Ring, while I've gotten new armor drops, I don't feel like investing the time to upgrade those new armor sets because of the amount of time that I put into the current armor set that I have, and it's completely maxed out. If I had the option of being able to take the armor set the stats that I have for my current armor set to a new armor set like in Elden Ring, that'd be such a great quality of life thing. So I thought that was really cool that's going to be something that you could apply to a new armor set that you might find. So,
just to
yeah.
So I know you're excited about that.
Yes,
but isn't that just what other games do, where they allow you to apply a armor as a skin or cosmetic to any other set of armor? I mean, they're explaining it in reverse, but it really isn't any functionally different.
Yeah, it's like a cosmetic skin. Yeah, I mean, it is in that regard. Yep.
Because Diablo lets you do that.
They're saying this is a new piece of armor that you can apply this to. But yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. It's kind of like applying a new skin to an armor set you already have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, could you do that in Destiny? Like,
I believe so. Yeah, you could use this kind. I think so. I hesitate because I know the experts of the Destiny 2 community are so staunch. So I hate to quote anything that I may be incorrect about. But I thought I can't remember if it was Destiny 2. But I know that there are other games that say that will basically once you obtain a quest item, there are certain quest items that they say, okay, you could basically make anything. You know, it's a functional quest item, but it's also a cosmetic quest item, and you can take the look of this thing and apply it to any other piece of equipment in that genre, in that group.
Yeah. So that was like the one thing I thought was cool with this particular article from Game Informer. Again, Logic, I don't disagree with you. I really hope this game. I want this game to be a good game. I love the first 3 Dragon Age games. I'm hoping, and I don't want to say this. I know it's not the same BioWare. I'm just hoping here. I'm just hoping. So we'll see what happens. But again, I like what they showed. I like what they showed at Summer Games Fest. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this list together. I always have it in my head and I can recite it, and then when I haven't thought about it for a while, then I mess it up. So the studios that have lost their mojo, Arcane Austin, may they rest in peace. Unfortunately, they won't have a chance to recover from that. BioWare. I used to have Blizzard on this list, but I would say that with Diablo 4 that they have made an effective recovery.
I think they've redeemed themselves a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bethesda is definitely still on the list. Although they're in a weird place now where, like, I still feel like overall they've lost their mojo, but they have shown an almost like Ubisoft ability to go back and like raise up the fumbles that they've made, right? And I point to like Fallout 76.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Fallout 76 is a much better game now.
Yeah. CD Projekt Red had been on this list. This was originally 5, and I can never remember. I had like an acronym so I could remember it. It was always like the 3 Bs, 3 Bs, a C, and a whatever. So it was BioWare, Bethesda, Blizzard, and then it was CD Projekt Red, and I'm forgetting the 5th, I think. But CD Projekt Red was on this list. I would I think with what was the what was the uh, what was the Cyberpunk DLC? Phantom. I was about to say Phantom Menace.
Phantom Liberty.
Phantom Liberty. Yes. I
You
would say
said
that.
Phantom Menace. Please,
Yes.
please don't insult a good game by ascribing the title Phantom Menace to it. Worst Star Wars movie ever.
I think I will. Yeah, I won't agree with you there because I dislike 7, 8, and 9 more than I like the prequels. But anyway, CD Projekt Red I think has recovered. I think that they've done what they need to do so that whenever they do the next thing, people won't necessarily approach that with a lack of confidence. I think they've restored themselves by fixing the last game that they launched broken. And then a new addition is Rocksteady.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on Rocksteady. But that's not the same Rocksteady team though, is it?
I mean, I mean, we say the same thing about BioWare. I mean, I don't really, I mean, the people may not be the ones who are culpable, but at the end of the day, it's still the brand, right? And the production outlet that's releasing a thing. So,
yeah, I mean, I get it. But it's not like Laidlaw and I forget who else was part of that BioWare team. It's not the same team, though.
No, but
it's going to be interesting to see if they can kind of recapture that magic.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But the point being is when you say, hey, are you interested in this BioWare game, right? Regardless of what people it is, what I have to say is no, because everything that they've put out most recently has been disappointing.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. No, that's a fair point. Because they have. I mean, the stuff that this current iteration of BioWare's put out really hasn't been that good. And so for me, I think a lot of I think there's a lot riding on this particular iteration or this newest installment of Dragon Age, because there's a lot of fans out there, myself included, that want to see a great Dragon Age game. And if this one fumbles the ball, like we want to see, we want to see another great Mass Effect game. My concern is if this BioWare game isn't good, this could be the last BioWare game, or not BioWare. If Dragon Age isn't good, this current version of Dragon Age isn't good, then we may not see another Dragon Age again. And that as a fan of the series, that would be unfortunate for me. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to say, if they don't stick the landing on this, I gotta ask, right? Because it's EA, and the only one that was equally cutthroat as EA was Activision, right? I mean, I have to start asking the question: Does BioWare remain open? Because at that point, I don't think there is any point in it remaining open. The founders have left. As you said, it's not really the same team there anymore. So definitely, in my mind, like time to reshuffle the deck and figure out what you're going to do with the portfolio.
Yeah, that's a yeah. I mean, like, do you close shop, or do you make changes up top? I'm trying to look at them and see what else BioWare has cooking right now. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I'm at their website right now. I'm looking at the games here. The only thing they have is, and then we know about Anthem, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm just seeing Mass Effect. They have Mass Effect here, Dragon Age, and then in the new Dragon Age, the Veilguard. That's all I see about games. I don't think they've announced anything else. You mentioned Ubisoft earlier, Logic. Any interest in Star Wars Outlaws? It's coming out August 30th.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested. I may not be there. Again, another topic on DPS last night. I have extreme I'm an Ubisoft stan. I have extreme confidence in Ubisoft, with their ability to even if a game isn't great at launch, for them to stick with it and get back to it, and continue sculpting and molding it, to get it up to where it needs to be. Like any Ubisoft game that I've been disappointed with at launch, I go back and revisit and periodically check up on it on Steam, and it inevitably eventually gets good. So I'm interested. It may not be a day one for me because my deck may be full of other stuff. Again, like I said, I wrote up a Game Watch update on Stalker 2. Stalker 2 comes out September 5th. And so, if I don't hear like really spectacular buzz about Star Wars Outlaws at Jump, I may just kind of drag my feet about getting to it and hold off, to pick up Stalker 2. So, I'm there. And Massive Entertainment is one of my top 5 studios of all time. So definitely something, I'm going to be interested in and keeping an eye on.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely anything Star Wars. I'm usually there day one. And I probably will be day one with this one. No. Well, I say probably day. It also depends on if I'm still playing Elden Ring, which could be a reality. That could be a thing too, where I go back and try to platinum Elden Ring. But anyhow, all right, Lodgers. That's all I have for topics today, man. Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss that we didn't have on the topics list? Any other news items that maybe just popped up that you may want to share?
Not a news item, but I do want to do a plug for, like I've mentioned it a couple times, but I did do a Game Watch update, which is just kind of a series I do on my blog, where I go and pull facts and any news updates for games that are on my watch list. So I did a big write-up on Stalker 2 today. If you want to kind of go and check out where there's kind of consolidated information on like the background and the history. I didn't go into all of it because I've talked about GSC Game World several times on podcasts and on my blog over the last few years. Their history and everything that's gone on with them. But I did post that update out today. If you want to go take a look at that, includes things that Digital Foundry has said about Unreal Engine 5 because this is a UE5 game. Includes links to their most recent trailers. But also just kind of some of what's been going on with the studio, what they've said about content in the game, multiplayer, how reception has been from the hands-on sessions that the games media has had. So I dropped a link for that in the chat if anybody wants to go check that out.
Awesome, yeah, no, definitely encourage everyone to check that out. But what is Rover now? Geohound saying says, man, the gaming podcast scene is pretty dried up outside of Nintendo, PlayStation, such ones. I don't know anything about that. All right. Hey, don't worry. Yeah, go ahead. And
the other plug I wanted to mention is over on my channel, Rounding Off Infinity. There'll be gameplay, lengthier gameplay video of Unicorn Overlord going up today. I did post one clip out of that video on Twitter today, but longer gameplay video will be going up. And you can check that out along with gameplay I posted of Megacopter, World of Warships, some Call of Duty, and Blizzard 4. Diablo 4.
Blizzard 4. No, I got it. Diablo 4.
But I'll be continuing to put stuff up, but that's like the most recent stuff that's been posted.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of sports, WWE tonight, Money in the Bank. So I'll be watching that as well. I think that starts at 7 o'clock. Well, I think the pre-show kicks off at 7. I think the actual event starts at 8 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I've been continuing my Ruthless Aggression era rewatch. So it just got to the point where Kane has returned. I think this was the point that they also swapped him out.
God.
Like it's a different dude beneath the mask, I think.
Oh, is it? Was there a different Kane?
Yeah. Kane's been at least 2 different people, maybe 3.
Really? I thought he was. I thought Kane was always. I forget his name. He's Glenn Jacobs. But there might have been another Kane. I think
there definitely was, and I don't even know. Holy crap! This guy's a mayor now.
Yeah, he's a mayor in Tennessee, I think.
Yeah, So this is the guy who was in The Mask when he did the horror movie where he was like the killer. But I want to say he's definitely been. There's definitely been more than one person who's trained Kane. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, there may have been. I don't remember. But you're not watching any current WWE stuff though right now.
No. I keep telling myself that I will, but I don't know. I'm just right now. I just enjoy having Peacock and going back and reliving my younger years.
I mean, there's some really good storylines right now. Some really good storylines. I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe the return of Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank. Maybe he confronts the Bloodline. That's a really good storyline. But yeah, there's some, and the Wyatt Six is an interesting storyline. Yeah, there's some good stuff going on WWE right now. So.
Yeah, apparently there was supposedly he has always been Kane, but has had like wildly fluctuating weight. So maybe that's what I'm saying. But there was also a Kane imposter storyline, and I wonder if that's the one I'm seeing now.
That might be the one that you're seeing now.
Yeah, because I definitely feel like the guy who came into the ring was not the same guy.
So someone different, yeah.
Maybe it's not. That storyline was apparently later. I don't know.
By the way, Hap, I saw your tweet about F1. Who asked for that? who asked for F1? I actually don't. I don't even watch F1 racing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I used to watch it religiously, and I don't. I keep up with it, but I don't watch it as religiously as when it left, when they got rid of. Because I don't know, is the Speed Network still around? That used to be part of like, I want to say like the ESPN Fox Alliance or whatever. But when it all went to streaming, it just became like convoluted for me to catch up with it. I mean, they have a regular service now that, it's kind of in my backlog maybe. I used to be subscribed to the WSBK service, but I got rid of it because I would just be subscribed to it, but like never watch it. And I've been thinking about getting the Formula One subscription, but I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I think it was a Speed Network. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, again, I really don't. I don't even like. I don't watch anything like racing related. Like I don't watch NASCAR. Just doesn't interest me. Like I don't even know who any of the F1 drivers are now.
Well, Lewis Hamilton is still doing his thing. He's the like one black race car driver in Formula One.
I mean, I do know Nico Rosberg. I think isn't he a race car driver?
I don't know if Nico has a seat this year.
I only know that name because I have a friend's a big like F1 racing fan, and I think Nico's like their favorite driver or something.
Yeah, I mean, some of the guys who I recognize now were like just on the come up, like as I was kind of getting out of it. So Verstappen, like I said, Lewis Hamilton still doing anything. Fernando Alonso, that's an old mofo because he was like in the he was like one of the most storied drivers. Like when I was really into Formula One, and that was like 15 years ago. Everybody else is kind of new, I think, relatively. And Schumacher's kid was driving for a while, but he looks like he doesn't have a seat this year.
Oh, Schumacher has a son that's driving? I know Michael Schumacher from my younger days.
Well, he's really interesting because I looked it up today. So Schumacher had, I think, an accident. Maybe he fell during rock climbing or mountain climbing or something like that. Can't remember exactly. But he had an accident 10 years ago and can no longer talk or walk.
Oh,
and
wow.
however his family's dealing with it, like he has completely gone off the grid over the last 10 years. He makes no public appearances. His family has him completely isolated. I think he stays at his chateau in Sweden is where he lives now, I think. But in the last 5 years or so, I want to say his son got a Formula One drive and raced for a couple seasons, I think.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap it up with F1. But thank everyone for watching the show. Really appreciate the support. Please hit that like button if you haven't noticed already. It helps other people find the channel. And if you're new, consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification so you are alerted when we go live. And also want to thank Logic for joining the panel this afternoon. Again, Logic, I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, let everyone know where they can find you.
Well, I've mentioned a couple places already. You can go over and check out my blog. We'll be, hopefully the intention is for me to get back to writing and posting more there. So that's roundingoffinfinity.blog. Like I said, I posted a link to it in the chat. You can catch up with my video content at the Rounding Off Infinity gaming channel on YouTube. And then, of course, I am one of the co-hosts of the Enough to Keep Going Weekly Games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube. We do that live show at 8:45 p.m.-ish on Sunday nights. So feel free to stop by. There are some regulars who are members of the BRAP chat who come by and pretty regularly, religiously show up for that. So appreciate you guys, Otacon and Hero Down Under, Warwana, and some other people who come through here, and I see them pop up on my show on Sunday. So appreciate it.
Absolutely. And we'll be back next Wednesday for our regularly scheduled BRAP that goes live at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So come back and hang out with us next Wednesday. And if you want to give me a follow on the Twitters, it's BRAP_podcast. So we will catch you next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Everyone have a great rest of the weekend. Have fun playing video games because that's what it's all about. We'll catch you next time. Thank you.